Esta conferencia comenzará a grabarse.
Buen día, Víctor.
Buen día.
So, for those of you that could be now new to our sessions, we try to typically, not yesterday, for example, but typically, we try to divide the session in 3 blocks. The first one is the conceptual framework. Today we will speak about the sustainable manufacturing based on circular economy, and this will be covered by Giacomo Copani from the Lombardi Intelligent Manufacturing Cluster. And after his speech, I will invite you to share disruption needs and potential solutions for those disruptions. I want to start from now, encouraging you to share your experiences, because that's the main value of our video conference. I'm a little worried because lately I see that every time it's more difficult to hear you. I'm meaning you, all of you. Okay, so please think about what can you share with us about your experiences on circular economy and on manufacturing, on how the crisis has affected it then, and what kind of problems are you suffering now, or do you think that that could suffer in the near future? Okay, that's the main purpose at this moment of our sessions. And if you contribute with your experience, the results will be far better. So please think about that. Okay. Without more introduction, buongiorno, Giacomo. Are you there? Can you speak?
Buongiorno. Yes, I'm here. Good morning.
Okay. Good morning. Welcome and thank you for joining us. Okay. I will send you the presentation, right? Do you have a presentation to? Yeah. Okay.
Sure,
So
sure.
you have it now, I hope.
I have it, and now you should be able to see my screen, right?
Yes, we are seeing your screen.
Okay. So
Perhaps
good
you
morning.
could put the slides and presentation mode.
Yes, I just put off the video for you already saw me, and now presentation mode. Right.
Perfect. Thank you. Go on, please.
Okay, so good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks a lot for having invited me in your interesting morning talks. And thanks also to the colleague Ilaria Massari who invited me. Ilaria is a member of our cluster with Re Industria, and we cooperate a lot in Lombardy. So today I would like to share with you the experience that we are having in Lombardy region from our cluster perspective, of course, regarding circular economy. First of all, a few words about AFIL cluster, of which I'm the cluster manager. So AFIL is the Lombardy technical cluster representing advanced manufacturing in the region. And its mission is to manage the manufacturing community in order to improve its our research and innovation competitiveness. But especially its mission is being the partner for Lombardy region for the definition of the contents of future manufacturing policies. And of course, starting from Lombardy region, the mission of AFIL is to internationalize regional manufacturing. This is in a few words. So as you can understand, the cluster AFIL doesn't work only on a regional level. Everything starts from the region, of course, because this expresses the S3. But however, the intention is also to bring regional policies at the level of the national policies in order to influence national policies according to regional specialization. as well as to bring regional policies at European level. Of course, regarding interregional relationship programs and so on and so forth, as well as clusters cooperation programs. The members of the cluster, very important to say, they are mainly industrial companies. Obviously, we have about 150 members, of which the 75–80% they are companies. Then we have research centers and universities, as well as industrial associations. So AFIL is also a founding member of the national Italian technology cluster on advanced manufacturing, and we participate to the board. And AFIL participates as a technical partner engaged by Lombardy region in the Vanguard Initiative and the S3 Smart Specialization Platform Initiative. So you see, those are the action challenges which allow the cluster to act on different levels synergically. But now let's come to the point. So manufacturing in Lombardy is very, very relevant. It is the first sector of the non-financial economy. Lombardy is the first manufacturing region in Italy and the third in Europe per number of employees. And in Lombardy, about 25% of national manufacturing is produced, looking at the various indicators. What does it mean? It means that there is a lot of potential for circular economy and advantages coming from a sustainable manufacturing. This is the basis. So according to that, Lombardy region defined circular economy and sustainable manufacturing as an absolute priority for the future, together with another big priority, which is artificial intelligence, on which we are working. And based on that, in the last month of May, Lombardy region released the Lombardy Roadmap for Research and Innovation on Circular Economy. You can download this document. It's entirely written in English. And in fact, it represents a summary of all the research and innovation industrial priorities regarding circular economy for the next years, for the years to come. So this is not a document only from the cluster, it is a regional document. And but its elaboration was coordinated by our cluster. Let me spend a few words about this roadmap. First of all, how was it built? Why is it different from other European or national roadmaps? It was built adopting a mixed top-down and bottom-up process, meaning that we started, first of all, of course, identifying all the European and national priorities on circular economy and sustainable manufacturing, then considering specific regional challenges. But especially, it was built starting from the bottom. So going very vertically in all the major industrial specialization sectors of Lombardy region. Major sectors, they are machinery and mechatronics, food manufacturing, aeronautics, textile, plastics. We have excellencies such as cosmetics and pharma and so on. So drilling down in each of those areas and identifying specific, very specific circular economy potential and needs in all of these smart specialization sectors. Then there was the last phase of summarizing those specialization in a more general view, in order to have a road mapping language, which is, however, aligned with European and national priorities. So being that this is the process, this is the unique document where the real specialization of the territory in terms of circular economy can emerge. And through this process, the priorities are aligned somehow with the regional and with the national and European ones, so that if policies are implemented, synergies could be achieved also with other policies. But the message I would like to transmit you is that we did a lot of work in order to be specific and to overcome a little bit the general approach towards circular economy. Who did and does the roadmap in AFIL? We have the so-called strategic communities inside of our cluster, which are group of members of the cluster that are committed in a specific challenge for regional manufacturing. So we have a community on secure food manufacturing. We have a strategic community on artificial intelligence, another one on circular economy, 3D printing, and so on. Obviously, this roadmap was mainly elaborated by the community of circular economy, but not alone, because working with Lombardy region, we involved all of the other clusters of the region. So the cluster working on energy, aeronautics, smart cities, because circular economy is a very, very transversal process. So this is to say that this was a very inclusive job, which really represents manufacturing, but with a wider view, also accounting for societal impacts. Okay, and those strategic communities has as first role the one of defining targets and then implementing targets. But I will be a little bit fast just to show you what are the contents, the main contents of this roadmap. We decided to refer research and innovation priorities to the circular supply chain scheme. Now it's not circular, it's linear for representation purpose, but going from production till recycling and biochemical feedstock recovery, what are all the priorities in the life cycle? Just some example. In the production phase, we need to design products and processes, first of all, for circular economy, considering design for disassembly or the content of recycled materials and so on. Another big priority is on circular production processes, zero waste manufacturing, revalorization of secondary products into new productions, traceability during production through data acquisition, data storage. Artificial intelligence applied here can play a major role in production, but also new cross-sectorial business models for circular economy in the production phase. Now I can only give you a flavor of what's there. Those are the titles, but behind each title in the roadmap, there is a quite detailed description of the problem and of the main priorities for future development. So going on for the distribution phase, priorities are synergies between forward and reverse logistics, but also exploitation of local production, distribution, consumption network, for example, in the logic of industrial symbiosis. Production are also dealing with marketing issues such as proper pricing strategies and return strategies enabling circular economy. And they also account for public-private procurement concepts. And so on. We have priorities for all the life cycle phases. Very important. I just cite few important ones that in our regions are quite investigated and used. So, for example, the concept of industrial product service system, where the manufacturer is not owner of the products itself, but remains the owner, so that it can retake the products after the end of life and really enable circular economy. Priorities at the level of the collection, so regarding reverse logistics, but also the engagement of citizens in order to accept remanufactured and recycled products and to return their products after the use. One of the main and the most important priority area in the roadmap is this one. So the one regarding obviously remanufacturing, repairing and recycling processes. So here priorities, they deal with innovative technologies, for example, for remanufacturing, robotics for disassembling, testing technologies, automation applied here, and so on. The same for recycling, innovative technologies for recycling. The technology side is particularly important because in Lombardy there is a very strong machinery and tooling industry. So the idea is to set up a new leadership also in end-of-life machinery and tools, and not only in production one. Okay, so this was just a very fast flavor of the main contents of the roadmap. I want also to say that besides the technical priorities we investigated and have set in the roadmap, also some type of transversal priorities, such as legislation and regulation issues, but also the need for demonstration and piloting infrastructure to enable circular economy, education topics, cultural and ecosystem buildings. As I said, this exercise was not general, but information was mainly derived from the precise specialization sectors of the region. Here you see just some of them. So we had many meetings with the stakeholders of those sectors. In total, we had something like 20 events to draft the roadmap, public events. Then there was a public consultation of the Lombardy region and another round of consultation. So the document was very inclusive. And for each of the sector, we produced something like that. So it is the precise indication on how the general regional priorities fit with the specific needs of the industrial specialization sector. Okay, and this is for every sector. At the end, we were in the middle of the COVID phase when Lombardy region had to approve the roadmap. So we made also an important exercise to understand how the priorities can meet the future post-COVID phase. And in the roadmap, we have indicated some base targets in order that circular economy can also support the post-COVID, but more in general, situations where there are disruptive events. Circular economy can do that, and also sustainable manufacturing, of course. Imagine, for example, temporary recycling of some materials of products due to temporary needs of medical equipments we had. So the possibility of technologies to be flexible and to temporarily adapt to those needs is very, very important. Okay, I'm going to the final phase of my presentation. This was the roadmap, and the roadmap is a sort of manifesto of what the policies of Lombardy region will be on sustainable manufacturing and in particular on circular economy. But then besides the roadmap, there is the action. So this means that based on the roadmap, in fact, a number of projects and initiatives are running in the topic on circular economy in Lombardy, but it is also true vice versa. So based on these massive volumes of activity, then the stakeholders could mature a culture on circular economy over time, which led to the roadmap I just presented you. So here I'm summarizing the main projects and initiatives strictly in the circular economy area at various levels that were mainly animated by our cluster. And
Sorry, there is noise from somebody. Please. Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Thank
Continue.
you. So we are involved in initiatives at the level of platforms and interregional cooperation together with Lombardy region, for example, the Vanguard Initiative and the Smart Specialization Platform, where Lombardy stakeholders, they are coordinating this DM remanufacturing project, but we also participate to the Advanced Materials for Battery Partnership. Then in the frame of our strategic community, some project was conceptualized and then had success at various levels. For example, we have running H2020 project, which were conceived here in Lombardy, and then they were successful. The asterisk means that they were conceived and they are coordinated by Lombardy stakeholders in various areas. And then we are also active at the Interreg level in various programs on circular economy. Besides that, we participate to some initiatives such as the World Remanufacturing Summit. It will be organized in Milano in 2021, probably. We are members together with Lombardy regions in alignment with Lombardy regions to the European Battery Alliance. Just a few words to let you understand the variety of those initiatives. So Vanguard Initiative, I think some of you already know also because there are colleagues in the call, is an initiative of 33, I think, European regions that came together in order to conceive and implement innovation projects based on pilot plans and demonstrators in Europe and based on smart specialization. So in Lombardy, our cluster is leading for the European network, the pilot in efficient and sustainable manufacturing. with those regions participating. I think some of you and of your members is participating to this network. And in particular, in the frame of this pilot, we call it pilot, there is the so-called demo case DM remanufacturing dealing with circular economy. It is in fact a sub-project where stakeholders of the participating regions defined some action areas depending on their regional specialization. And here you can see a list of open use cases, for example, composite recovery from wind energy systems, or automotive parts remanufacturing, or photovoltaic panels demanufacturing. And for each of those, there are regions that are specialized in some phases of the value chain operations that is setting up a concept of European network of demonstrators and pilot plants. So smart specialization is the driver here. The various regions, they identified the specialization and they combined, integrated specializations in a European value chain project. And for example, in Lombardy region, this is the current group of companies, technology providers, academia, research centers that are at the moment engaged. Every company has signed the letter of intent, so they are engaged also in co-funding this type of activity. This is open, so if you're participating to the Vanguard Initiative, you're really welcome to join this network. Just a few words about the projects to show you the variety. So I mentioned in the slides, this is one H2020 open project, which is called Faber EUs, which was born from this cluster working group. The intent of the project is to study new technologies and methods to recover and reuse fibers of composite materials at the end of life. A very specific area where Lombardy has specializations. This is another project which is coordinated by Lombardy partners. It is called Carry Service. The topic is very different. The topic is circular economy of electric vehicles with particular regard to batteries, and but also exploiting the benefits of circular economy, improving car sharing services through new ideas of services. So there is also the idea of a big societal impact for this project. This is another project which is coordinated by another Lombardy stakeholder. It is called DG Prime. The concept here is that circular economy is a multidisciplinary issue, so we need electronic platforms to merge, to link all the various sectors that can produce input that represent, that can produce output that represent input for other sectors in a circular view. Okay, so the main intent is to realize such a platform linking a number of sectors in Europe. Then just some other examples. Greenomed was an InterregMed project. Here we really investigated the cooperation mechanism between clusters and regions in order to activate innovation projects based on this concept of pilot plants and grounded on sustainable manufacturing. So we recognized, working together with colleagues of various regions, that it's very difficult to coordinate our efforts in order to have approach, and then
Giacomo, we are having, at least myself,
defined in this project a corporate homogeneous European operation methodology in alignment also with regional authorities. With artificial technologies, and here the idea is to set up common actions, common interregional actions, in order to promote circular economy through artificial intelligence in some efficient way and in cooperation among various European regions. So I just very fast told you those running projects and initiatives to show that the portfolio of things that we are doing is very wide and multidisciplinary. So very different topics, very different instruments and models because we are trying to merge all of that and trying to find synergies. And that's the difficulty. And here is where the cluster can really help stakeholders. By doing that, we are succeeding in developing a quite homogeneous regional culture on circular economy. So we have a mass of stakeholders that now understand in the same way those things. They share the same goal, and this led us to compile this circular economy roadmap that is, on the one hand, the result of this effort, and on the other hand, is the start for new actions. Okay, I don't know if I used more time than needed. I will share the presentation, and of course, I am available for any clarification and detail if you are interested in that. Thank you very much.
Grazie mille, Giacomo. Yes, please send us the presentation. I am sure that there are attendants that are interested on it. Me for sure. Okay. Thank you and congratulations for the presentation and the work behind it. Okay. I have a very concrete question because, as you know, the main purpose of our sessions at this moment is to analyze the effect of the COVID crisis on our industry ecosystem. So, would you highlight some effects that you are suffering now, or you will think to suffer in the near future?
You mean in general or related to sustainability and circular economy?
In general, but as much concrete as possible. Okay, not if we would like to be very concrete in our reporting. So,
well, as you may understand, this was really a disruption for industry in Lombardy and in all Europe. So now the main point is to start again with activities. Everything is slowed down. The demand is lacking for companies, and that's a real crisis. So what is the response, or what are the companies doing? I have to say, really in partnership with Lombardy region, we are trying as a cluster to promote really much innovation and reshaping of current way of doing business, but really based on some innovative solution. So since the beginning of the crisis, Lombardy region, for example, pushed companies not only to reconvert value chains and productions simply, but pushed companies to do this, including relevant innovation concepts, methods, technologies, and so on, with a sustainability logic. So in order that after the crisis, this will still be valid. And I think if I have to outline something, I think that this concept of restarting through innovation is the relevant one here in Lombardy. Another very important point related to the COVID crisis, and obviously always related to the policies of the region and to the cluster related activities, is that the region decided not to stop what was already ongoing in terms of policy definitions and policy implementations, because this was and is still valid, is the result of many past years of work. But on the other hand, it decided to confirm, for example, the policies on circular economy, but to revise them in order to adapt to the needs of the crisis. And probably to adapt means to outline the priorities that are more important for the COVID. I mentioned earlier, for example, in terms of circular economy, the flexibility of circular technology is a priority that was very, very highly rated, more than before, because since we cannot forecast this type of events and also their length, then it is essential that recovery, reuse, remanufacturing system can temporarily adapt to new needs. For example, can shift from a strategy of remanufacturing to a strategy of recycling because we need some material. Or it is needed that waste collection systems can be fastly improved to manage big volumes of waste. So if I have to say, the keywords, they are restart through innovation and confirm long-term strategic priorities, but revise them under the new lenses of this type of crisis.
Okay, but just trying to be very, very concrete. Are you suffering, or your company suffering, a concrete problem at this moment? Lack of raw materials, lack of, I don't know, personnel, workforce?
We have to distinguish between the initial phase of the crisis, where, of course, there was a lack of raw materials, there was a lack of
we need to focus now.
Now things slightly improved because let's say, the shock passed a little bit, and also many value chains were reconverted immediately. So the emergency period, I would say, stopped. Okay, we are not suffering from lack of raw materials, and we could cover that. The real problem now is to restart, and of course there are problems of organization in companies. Still, the majority of people that can do smart working, they do smart working. There is a big debate on how to organize production in factories in this period, because we have to keep social distances. And so massive productions with a lot of operators in shop floors obviously cannot be addressed and sustained. So companies, they are more and more adopting very fast technologies such as robotics in factories, or virtual reality, in order to remotely manage plants. And we see that this adoption is really immediate, especially for the technologies that are already ready. So what we see is that there are companies in our cluster that were working with those technologies mainly at the research and innovation side. As far as the crisis started, and now where we are now, they have accelerated a lot in the introduction of those technologies, and they did. So they brought some robots in production. They already knew, because they were studying in some, innovation related activities. They started to use much more massively virtual reality for the maintenance, for example, of plants, but also for the operations of plants, because they were already studying and they knew. This was also possible because in the region, together with not only with our cluster, but with the regional associations, Lombardi region, we have a big open innovation community. There were a set of activities helping companies to fast understand and introduce those new technologies in companies. So if I have to respond to your question, yes, of course we are suffering, but I think our sufferance is not different from the one of many other European regions. We are concretely answering by accelerating the introduction of production technologies that are very suited in this moment, in order to allow production to start again while keeping social distances.
Thank you again, Giacomo. Okay, I would like to hear questions, comments, other experiences from those of you that are hearing us until now. Who is the first?
I would like to ask a question. It's related to the Vanguard Initiative. I don't know if you have started to cooperate in the new context and trying to find out other possibilities accordingly with the new challenge. I know that has not passed a lot of time, and probably you don't have met the international the regions that are involved in the Vanguard Initiative. But if you have any good examples or possibility for territorial cooperation among different countries to face the current crisis, I will be very pleased. to hear, Giacomo. Thank you.
Okay, yes, sure. So, for example, you know, there is in Vanguard a pilot on 3D printing, and the stakeholders of this pilot contributed to set up or to share information on available 3D printing production sites, also in cooperation with the European Commission, you know. So yes, the Vanguard network is also acting for the COVID, is a sort of natural way of acting, because then the stakeholders of the Vanguard network are also partner of all the other networks that are active in the COVID. I just cited the example of 3D printing because it's obvious, is a topic that really strongly related to some possible recovery action on the COVID. I think it is the main one, because regarding circular economy, for example, we can plan sort of medium-term actions. We have to change the way of working. It's not immediate, but in the 3D printing case, yes, this network is active also on the COVID side.
Thank
Okay,
you.
thank you.
More comments, questions? Or more experiences? Who wants to share?
Antonio, can I make a question to Giacomo? A very short question. Giacomo, I think that it is very important in your ecosystem to try to have a permanent attitude of promoting dissemination, this culture of sustainability and the circular economy. How do you do that with your companies, with your universities and centers of competence? Do you have a certain plan for dissemination and promotion and involvement of the stakeholders?
Yes, yes. In fact, you are outlining a major point. So we do this through this organizational way of things, which are the strategic communities I mentioned earlier. We organize those groups that are composed of some of them 30, some other 50, 60 companies, universities, and research centers. And then as a cluster, we organize continuous animation activity based on the topics of those groups. I make an example. The community of circular economy organizes regular meeting, but every 2 weeks, more or less, we have webinars and events organized by the clusters on, for example, circular economy topics. And those events and meetings, they are totally open. So everyone can be engaged also outside the cluster. We sometimes invite experts to tell about the latest development of circular economy technologies. Sometimes we invite companies just showing experiences on what they do. Sometimes we organize simple presentations of curious stakeholders in the regions. So we have a well-scheduled communication activity and calendar, which we call AFIL Innovation Labs, one every 2 weeks. And the idea is exactly to diffuse things and contents continuously in order to make people aware and also interested to those topics, not only for the experts of the community, but really to achieve a big diffusion.
Thank you, Giacomo. But I will suggest to focus on the topic, please, on the topic of what kind of disruptions we are suffering now, okay, or how can we be better prepared for possible crisis in the future, okay, a rebound, for example. And we are speaking about sustainable manufacturing, and you were speaking before about the realignment of the supply chains, okay? So I will invite not only you, Giacomo, but others that are here to share experiences on that. I am sure that you can do that. Please don't be shy.
Maybe Antonio, maybe I could start
Please.
first question. Thank you. Good morning, Giacomo. Yes, you mentioned that among the description, or there is this the organization of a workforce on the shop floor and how to deal with the current situation. What would be your opinion or about the opportunity to accelerate digitalization of companies to address these organization issues and find solution to restart yesterday the wording was reignite the economy and the manufacturing chain. And I have in mind the DigiPrime project you mentioned, or AI Reju dealing with artificial intelligence, for instance. I don't know your opinion.
Yeah, hello, Patrick, first of all. Yes, artificial intelligence and digital technologies, they can really help to reshape, for sure, the production, especially after this crisis, but especially to guarantee that if those type of things, we hope they will never happen again, but if they will, we will be more ready to sustain the effects. There are here, I think everybody is speaking about it. Artificial intelligence was already a big priority for Europe and for many of our regions, even before this COVID crisis. Now it became even more because we understood and we thought that it can be useful to maximize resilience. So in fact, it is common opinion that we should accelerate the introduction of those technologies, and everybody is pushing there. In Lombardy, for example, we are now fully working at the implementation of the artificial intelligence regional roadmap after circular economy. And for sure, we will address this need to adopt artificial intelligence to cope with COVID-related issues. But problems do not change. So if we had problems and barriers for the introduction of artificial intelligence before COVID, we still have. Now we have the opportunity to be more focused, and maybe we can invest more in order to overcome those barriers. We have the time issue, and we see that it is very, when I said before that there are companies that are accelerating their introduction process, it is true, but I cannot say all of them they are doing because it's difficult. You need to be prepared. So the most innovative ones, they can do, and they can push the accelerator to the introduction of robotics, virtual reality, sensoring, and this type of things. The main difficulty is for the SMEs, because the SMEs, they cannot have the resources the big ones have. And when I say resources, they are not only the financial resources. So I think we will have a lot of support from future forthcoming policies at all level, at regional level for our territory, for the cluster. Very big one from Europe, because we know that in Horizon Europe there will be a big focus on artificial intelligence technologies, and we are all really waiting this type of support. But in the meanwhile, we are preparing the ground. That's a little bit the feeling that we have. I don't know if I answered to your question, Patrick, but
Yes, thank you, Giacomo.
By the way, yeah, you mentioned, let me just add this. You mentioned two projects, A Region and DigiPrime, but I think this is an example of ongoing and running innovation activity that is very useful in this moment. So we didn't set up those projects because we knew that there would have been COVID. They were already running. And we are somehow lucky, let me say, that they are running because they are an already established opportunity to accelerate this transition. That's why we think it's important to have a constant portfolio of running projects, initiatives running at all levels in order to address various things that can dynamically change in the.
Thank you, Patrick. Merci beaucoup, and thank you, Giacomo. Any other question, comment from the audience?
May I, Antonio? Victor?
For sure. Thank you, Victor.
Okay, just maybe some question related to problems and barriers. Thank you, Giacomo, also for your excellent presentation. We are involved, the Cluster Habitat in Portugal. We are involved in also in H2020 project that started as fiber reuse. We have a project that calls Paper Chain, and we are involved H2020 project on circular economy, a large-scale demonstrator. We are involved with companies from Portugal, Spain, Slovenia, Sweden, France, and so on. And it relates the paper and pulp industry with the construction sector and the mining sector, and so these demonstrators have a wide application. And my contribution today is thinking about this. The project started in 2017 and it's finishing in 2021. And we have implemented our key pilot cases in 4 different countries. And well, our experience living to this valorization of wastes into different sectors and looking at the consequences in terms of sustainability, in terms of business model, in order to implement circular economy. I think the most tricky thing, I don't know if Giacomo also has felt that in the projects that he has presented. One of the difficult things that is clearly an identified barrier and the problem to implement circular economy is the legal constraints, the legal bureaucracy. When you try to, for instance, the end of life status of waste to become an alternative raw material. This is a process that can take up to 3, 4, 5 years. Of course, this is not appealing and this is not interesting in terms of speeding up circular economy and its benefits. So I would like to hear Giacomo about this question, if it is also, because we have felt this in different situations, different countries in our project. We have felt that this is a problem, so the legal framework has to be adapted. Even thinking about Giacomo presentation, when he says that I noticed that one of the constraints were brought by the COVID pandemic was the disruption in terms of, for instance, raw materials. So everything that should be done in trying to bring new and alternative raw materials that can compensate any kind of disruption brought by COVID or other. I think it should be interesting and should be something that should be a target for the legal authorities, the environmental agencies in each country to speed up their processes in order to speed up the implementation of circular economy. So I'd like to hear Giacomo or anybody else comments on this clear, probably the #1 difficulty in implementing the circular economy process. Thank you.
You're welcome, Victor.
Yeah.
Who wants to comment?
Thank you. Maybe I can say just a few words very fast because I talked already too much. Thank you for this question. You are right. This is one of the major and total barriers for circular economy. So regulation must change if we want circular economy in place as a common business in Europe. I think about the end of waste, which is not there. But besides those big changes, also we have to speed up all the processes. A very concrete example linked to what you cited. During the COVID, we had here in Lombardy, we had to develop new products using new materials and new procedures for building new products, always related to the medical area. So companies very fast started new production arrangements. They established new value chains, and in a very short times, products were there. But the formal process for having those products approved according to current regulations and procedures then created an enormous delay. So things were ready more or less after just 1 or 2 months, and still I have to say in some cases they didn't get the approval for being commercialized. This is with what you said. So time, not only the content of the regulation and legislations, but also time and bureaucracy should change, because if not, we cannot be flexible at all.
More comments on that? Victor, I didn't fully understand the relationship between regulation and circular economy. Sorry, could you give me some samples, concrete samples?
No, the specific problem is related because in this situation, the use of waste from one sector as an alternative raw material in another, which is of course one of the aspects of circular economy to save natural raw materials and bringing waste that comes from the end of life of other products or the generation of waste in some manufacturing processes to become by industrial symbiosis the raw material for another sector or their own sector. So this implies of course a lot of regulation, that is environmental regulation, that needs to be coped from the point of view of getting the end of declassification of a waste, and in order to become an alternative raw material and not seen as a waste by the incorporating sector. It's very important in circular economy because the people that are incorporating waste-based raw materials into their production, they don't want to receive a waste. They want to receive a raw material with characteristics that are reliable, that cannot bring some misconcept or some wrong ideas in their final clients, because there is some kind of rejection psychology in terms of, okay, I'm going to have a final product in my home that has wastes. So this is some kind of natural rejection. So what happens that the company wants to sell her product as usual, and they don't want to say, okay, this product has a waste in it. Okay, so they want to say, okay, this is a product that fulfills all the characteristics, all the performance characteristics that this product should have. So it's very important for the end user, for the companies that are incorporating wastes coming from several sectors, that they have this a reception of a raw material, an alternative raw material, and not a waste. Okay, so this is important for the flow of circular economy. And the legal framework, it has to be adapted in terms of the time of response, in terms of making this process, of course, with the natural care that should be there, because it's the safety of people that is in question, but it should be quick and intelligent processes that will not cause a barrier to this upcoming of new raw materials, new alternative raw materials to the natural ones, because this also has an impact on the efficient use of raw materials, which is a sustainability criteria that we should also take into account. I hope I was clear about it.
Yes, and usually this homologation is done by the region, by the country.
by the country. This is a country regulation, of course, that is in tune with the European Union directives, and each country has developed their own regulation, and usually it's the environmental national agencies that take care of these processes, and there are regulation about it, and we should fulfill. There is audits when people want to declassify their waste in the end of, in order for them to be considered as raw materials for others, they have to go for a permit or a licensing process that allows the waste to be declassified. So this is sometimes a process that can take a lot of time, and there is little barriers that, for instance, people without knowing if their waste can be considered for an end-of-life statute, they must pay ahead something like I don't know, 5,000 euros, without finding if the process is going to be successful in the end. So there are small things that prevent, if you think about SMEs and the money that they have to spend, sometimes this constitutes little barriers, but that stop the process, and this is just an example. But surely what Giacomo was saying, we must look into the legal framework in each country and allow a more intelligent and system that will motivate for a circular economy, and not do the other way around, which is work as a break to the circular economy way of thinking.
And once material is homologated in a country, the rest of Europe recognize that homologation, I understand.
Yes, because there are harmonized standards along Europe about this, and so this is not a problem, I think. The problem starts inside, in the regional and national level, where these things have to be dealt with, and so some bureaucracy is attached to the process.
So that could create differences in between countries. Those that could be more agile.
We have seen that also in our project, in our paper chain project. We saw that in the southern countries of Europe, we have a tendency to be more bureaucratic, and in the northern countries of Europe, they have the tendency to be more practical about it. I'm afraid to say that, but it was something that we felt when we compared our pilot cases, our 5 pilot cases that were located in Portugal, Spain, Slovenia, and Sweden. We compared our barriers, and this happens, of course. This is not probably exclusive for all sectors. Probably it's not the same in all sectors, but there is this difficulty.
What countries are more agile? Your opinion, or following your information?
I think the northern countries are more agile than the southern countries. We have a tendency to be more bureaucratic, and this implies to our companies extra barriers.
Patrick, you were commenting on the plastic recycling on France.
Thank you. Yes, I fully agree with Victor's comments. Yes, just an addition from my side. Yes, we have some notice that recycling companies are having very hard time as the industry in general, but in particular today, especially due to the fact that there is a slowdown or lockdown of industry, and no supply of material for them, and no demand. So this is very we have some comment and papers from companies, especially in the plastic sector, plastic recycling in France, about the critical situation of today. and for themselves, but also for the implementation of circular economy. It's clear.
And what kind of solution could help on that? Have you identified some kind of solution or things that could help then, or there is no more solution than to wait for the return to the normality?
I don't know if there are some insight from the audience, but no, it's just the fact that there is a critical, let's say, a possible disruption in this on this segment of recycling, and what are the solution? I have no specific ideas or experiences to comment, but it could be definitely a topic to address for, especially with regard to circular economy, and not to endanger this segment of company of recycling that are critical for implementation of circular economy, obviously.
Thank you, Patrick. Very, very interesting. So it's time to close. Thank you, everybody, for all your contributions. Okay, I really want to encourage you to return to our sessions in the future, but also to participate, to speak, because we are sharing knowledge, we are sharing information, and that's the core of our video conference. So thank you. Tomorrow we will speak about partnerships of industrial modernization platform. We will have 3. Thank you, Eurada, okay, because you have been key in organizing this session, Esteban. And so I will invite every one of you to join us tomorrow. And also, please, you can now register for the video conference that we will have next week on Tuesday 30 with the Commissioner Thierry Breton. In our invitation message, you have the link. Thank you and see you soon, I hope.
Thank you.
See you.
Thank you. Bye.
See you tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
Bye-bye. See you tomorrow.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you very much.